Right.
So it sounds like that we're perpetuating sort of cultural beliefs and values that we have in American culture. And even though it sounds like that there's evidence to do something different, it's hard for people to change. How do we help people change?
It is. Well, let me describe how the perpetuation goes first.
Okay, first. Yeah,
and
great.
so you have, children are born with, and then have the relationship disrupted. As they get older, they're more likely to feel alienated. This is what happens when we're not, having a secure bond with a mother, for example. So if we're feeling alienated, we're more likely to be attracted to conformity. We're more likely to not trust our own opinions. We're more likely to accept without question the opinions of presumed authorities. So so conformity is a very strong social factor here. And the other thing is, which psychologists have learned, is that with trauma, there's a compulsion to repeat it, because the repressed feelings are still going on inside the body of people that have been traumatized. So the way we repeat trauma is we do it to the next generation. We do it to children, and again, this can be usually it's with the best of intentions. Okay, and so the combination of the tendency to conform and the compulsion to repeat the trauma, when children then grow up and become parents themselves, they're very likely to repeat these things on the next generation. And just to give you another simple example, which is maybe easier to understand, if children were physically abused, then when they become parents, again, the research shows this, they're more likely to physically abuse their children than parents who weren't physically abused as children. So again, that's an example of how one generation passes it on to the next, because that's the way the effects of trauma work.
And that would be like what we're seeing with bullying. That's sort of that cycle of violence. So would we see similar things, like if a kid observed bullying, that they might do the same thing?
It's certainly a possibility. I mean, we tend to respond individually because we have different ways of coping with negative experience. And that's why I can't say, look, this is always going to happen. Because as we well know, most of us have experienced a lot of these early discomforts and trauma-like experiences, and most of us aren't violent. Right. Okay, and that's because obviously we cope differently, we have other experiences that affect our behaviors, and even though effects of violence affect a small minority of people, it's important that we reduce that, because look, they can have tremendous impacts on people, as we're seeing from recent events. So I just want to bring more attention to these primary factors, so we can, add that to the mix of improving life for us and our children.
Right, and I wonder if we can go back just a little bit, because
Sure.
I had something you said was interesting to me. It just now, in the sense that it, as you go on, it perpetuates itself. But I wonder, you had mentioned bringing a child home, bringing a baby home and sleeping with it. That could, in a positive way, perpetuate the mother-infant bond. But I'm wondering what, if there's some sort of trauma at birth or separation that sort of ignites this separation in the mother-infant bond, how does that, what are other things as a baby continues to grow that could also contribute to that? I guess to better say, like, is it solely focused on that, or are there other things during development that can also disrupt the bond?
Oh, well, sure. There's another example. What's common in American culture is bottle feeding. Okay. The World Health Organization recommends breastfeeding for at least 2 years. The American Academy of Pediatrics certainly endorses breastfeeding. So this is something that maybe started out a couple of hundred years ago, and it's something that gets passed on from one generation to the next.
Right.
But the research shows there are dozens of physical and emotional benefits of breastfeeding, including enhancing the bond between the child and the mother.
Right.
So when it's bottle feeding, then those benefits are lost.
Right.
Okay, and again, we're talking about contributing factors. It's not all one.
Right,
And
exactly.
there's no way we could do research to test one and eliminate the other variables, because we don't have that control and we don't want that control.
We don't live in a vacuum.
Parents
Right.
do the best they can, and
Right.
and we respect that.
Right.
Because when you're talking about this, one of the things I was thinking about is the working mother,
Yeah.
who has a baby, maybe is off from work 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever the maternity, and then has to go to work, and that is disrupting the bond.
Very significantly, unfortunately,
Right.
because of our culture, 56% of infants have mothers that work outside the home. So obviously, if they're working, they're not with the babies, and that's a very significant separation. So I know we're doing the best we can, but at the same time, this is having effects on the infants, and it's having long-term effects on the infants.
Right. So I think, in thinking about this, and obviously there's a lot of factors that I'm interested to learn more about, so I'll be doing more reading
Sure.
on. But, in terms of leaving our viewers with some lasting ideas, what do you think people can do to change, to not only prevent the bond, but also promote a better
Sure.
bond and reduce violence as the ultimate goal?
Right.
I would ask people to keep in mind that natural birth, other things being equal, is much better for the infant than a medically controlled birth. And tens of thousands of women today have birth at home and have wonderful experiences. Breastfeeding as opposed to bottle feeding. Physical contact, the more continuous it is, the better. And again, we do the best we can, but if we can have women staying home or having infants with them, maybe having some more facilities at work where infants can be with their mothers, that would certainly be a great benefit. And of course, we need cultural support for these things, because people don't always have the freedom to make some of these choices. So that cultural support would involve, for example, having paid maternal leave. We rank near the bottom of countries in the world about maternal leave. We only have, national policy is 12 weeks of unpaid maternal leave here in the United States, where some European countries have 1 year of paid leave, even up to 3 years of paid leave. So we got a long way to go with that politically. We also could benefit from better parenting and child development education. I urge women in particular to be more assertive. These practices were mainly initiated by men. Again, doing the best they can, but if they don't have maternal instincts. So I ask women to be more assertive in looking out for the best interests of their children.
Right.
And just as a final thing, in terms of spreading the word, I certainly hope people can, with their own friends and family who may be having children in the future, I hope they can raise awareness there, contact the media if they want to. Certainly the internet is a great resource, and politicians, of course, who are some of the decision makers on some of these things.